Hi, and welcome to FabCon TV. Welcome back. My name is Anna Hoffman. I am a SQL GPM overseeing tools and experiences in Fabric, and I'm also the host of Data Exposed. So it's really exciting to be at this conference, and if you're tuning in online, recapping some of the announcements we've done in the Microsoft SQL space at SQLCon. I'm really excited to be here, and I have some really special guests joining us, and another potential surprise guest. We're going to see who that is and if they make it. We'll find out. But without further ado, let's get into who I'm joined with. So I'm joined by Priya Sathy, the VP of SQL. Thanks so much, Priya, for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me on Data Exposed, Anna.
Yeah.
Super excited to be here.
And I'm also joined by Rajesh. Rajesh, tell us a little bit about your role in the SQL team.
Sure. Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. Just join your session. My name is Rajesh. I work on the SQL team as a GPM. And then I own the SQL platform, a bunch of stuff in SQL areas, starting from hardware onboarding all the way up to surfacing those service tiers to customers. So,
yeah, you're definitely going to want to ask all your questions, all the hard questions to Rajesh. He's going to know all the answers, and he's got all the folks working on all the things that you are looking for. So before we get into all the things that we announced and talking about some of those announcements across Microsoft SQL, I thought, Priya, it would be great if you could share a little bit about your perspective on, give us the inside scoop. You're a big proponent of SQLCon happening with FabCon, and tell us a little bit about how you see that evolving and how Microsoft SQL is going.
Yeah, so we started this conversation about 6 months ago after after the last FabCon. If anybody was at the last FabCon in Europe, Vienna, we went back home and we said, oh my gosh, there is such a huge SQL community, and the SQL community really wants to come back together. And we met a lot of people
Absolutely.
at FabCon, and that were SQL users. And they said, why don't we have a SQL conference from Microsoft? We heard that from the community, and we said, let's be biased, let's take action. And that started in October last year. We started the thinking of SQLCon, and we said, yep, let's go make it happen. Let's give the SQL community a place to come hang out, learn from each other, learn about the latest innovations in the world of SQL, and that is what we made happen.
Absolutely. And I really think that beneath every Fabric person or Power BI person is a SQL person.
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, Rajesh, this is your first SQLCon. Is this your first time at FabCon? Or
This is my first
What's been your experience here?
So we have always been on the other sides watching FabCons for multiple years, and I've always were like, we were jealous of, hey, why didn't we have such a conference? And thanks to Priya, she made it happen. And when we first said, okay, SQLCon is happening and it's hosted along with FabCon, it was like a dream come true for us. So great to see all the momentum that went into us, and great to see we are part of the first inaugural SQLCon here. So it's always the best opportunity. We worked so hard for all of you to make a bunch of features, but it's nothing like joining with the community, connecting with the community, talking to the customers, and validating what our plans are. In fact, it went to the point that once SQLCon was materializing, we completely took over our plans, and we said, okay, what do we do to make our customers excited for the first inaugural SQLCon? We wanted it to make it special, and we wanted to address the top customer feedback, and then said, let's go address them. And then we have a deadline, 6 months, we got to make it happen. And I hope that's what you saw in all the announcements that we did. We want to continue this tradition going forward, and then we want to meet where you are.
Yeah, I love it. Exactly that, and it's a great segue into all of the announcements. I mean, you can see on the screen, there's almost so many announcements that you can't even see how many announcements there are because they're so small. So what I want to do next is we'll kind of go through different areas, and I'll get the perspective of Rajesh, the perspective of Priya. I'll chime in with my 2 cents on some things about what's new. So Rajesh, I thought we would start with migrate and modernize.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about anything that really stands out to you of what we did in this space?
Yeah, so before I get into individual line items, I just want to set the stage on the migrate and modernize aspect. As we know, every customer wants to migrate to Azure. I think what Priya was also in our core note, she re-emphasized the fact that it's not more about the migrate, it's also about the modernize. Because we want customers to come to the Azure platform. We want customers to come and try on the latest and greatest on the Azure side. Try all the AI capabilities, and all of it, you get it right within the Azure platform. So it's very inevitable that you have to get onto the migration bandwagon anyways. And for all of that, we wanted to make sure we release features like especially make it easy for you to migrate from on-prem to Azure. And then we released features in SSMS. We want to make sure the Copilot experiences for Sybase migration to Azure SQL. We had some Copilot experiences there. So those are all the capabilities that we did in migration space. And then on the enterprise side of the house, we are very excited to release the features on the storage engine side, which is the automatic index compaction. That's one of my favorite because
What is it?
I'll go over it. A long time ago, I mean, for a very long time, DBAs have always been figuring out, hey, the first maintenance jobs that they run is either index rebuilds and then update statistics.
Right.
And these have been the traditional jobs for a very, very long time.
Right.
Every DBA knows this, every DBA has lived this experience. And then on the storage engine side, we wanted to make it completely autonomous. We wanted a database that just runs for you. In fact, Dimitri, who's one of our very deep storage engine PM, he started a blog saying, hey, stop defragmenting and start living, which means you completely take off your hands off database maintenance. The database runs for you. You just show up and focus on high-value tasks, right? That's one that we're very proud of. In fact, the other thing that we want to very touch upon is the hyperscale named replicas load balancing. Hyperscale is our flagship database. That's the database that's fully built for the cloud, decoupled compute and storage. You can start small, grow all the way up to 128 terabytes. And then for read scale scenarios, where if you have read workloads, and then you have multiple named replicas, customers were giving us feedback that, hey, how do I make sure if I have to load balance this workload, what do I do? So we address that feedback. And along the way, there were also high-end customers who said, hey, yes, hyperscale scales to 128 cores, but we wanted more. And we asked, are you sure? They said, yes, we wanted more. We wanted to go all the way up to 192 cores. And that's exactly what we did in this announcement. So we also announced preview of 160 and 192. So those are some of the features that we have been doing. And obviously, a bunch of features on the AI monitoring aspects just to make your end-to-end life much better.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. I love the hyperscale because what it allows us to do is you can start small. Like, despite the name, like this can start small, but then it can really scale all the way to 192, all the way to 30 named replicas. I used to call it a read replica on the fly.
Yeah.
Scale on the fly. You need a read replica, you get one in 2 minutes. You need it over there, you get it in 2 minutes. Whatever the size you want, we can give it to you really fast. So it's a really great capability that we have.
Hold on a sec. You have a special guest coming in behind you.
Okay. We have a surprise guest.
Yeah, surprise.
What's going on here? What are you guys doing?
He's kind of like photobombing or crashing our session.
What are you doing here?
It's
What's going on?
It's okay. Everybody, Bob Ward
just sit
joining
down.
us, principal architect on the SQL team.
Not retired yet. Good try last night.
For those of you who attended the Power Hour, those of you online, you need to come to SQLCon and FabCon so you can know what Power Hour is about. But Bob, just to catch you up, we've been talking about what's new. We talked a little bit about Migrate and Modernize. We were talking about how awesome hyperscale is. But since you've just joined us, I'd love to get your take on, we haven't talked a lot about some of the new things in the Azure Arc space. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the things is migrations. I mean, we have a lot of customers right now looking at things like SQL 16 into support, which is this year, and they're thinking about what do I do, what are my choices? And one of the things we talk to customers about is migration. So in Azure Arc, we kind of created this great experience. If you'll bridge yourself with Azure, like connect yourself to Azure, we've got this really nice experience that's very seamless with a portal to allow you to assess your current situation in SQL Server. Like, let's assess your performance, your configuration, help you pick a target in the cloud, like say managed instance. Then go to the process of doing an actual online migration in the managed instance itself. It's pretty cool because if you're a customer in SQL 16, you're thinking like, is managed instance compatible for me? It is, but this is going to be a process that allows you to get into the cloud very easy, very seamlessly, and even do it online, and all do it by connected through Arc.
Amazing, awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks so much, Bob. Another announcement kind of in this space, and Priya, I'd love to get your take here, is in 2017, we came out with SQL Server on Linux.
Yeah.
So in 2017, we came out with SQL Server on Linux, and we continue to kind of innovate and provide updates in that space. But I'd love, Priya, to get your take. Like, what should people be using? What do you think about Linux, and how are we investing there? And any of the announcements you want to highlight?
It's a great question. And we see over time, we've seen that, customers are embracing open source as well. So SQL will continue to embrace open source. And it was in 2017 that we did bring about the support for Linux. And we continue to invest there. We know a lot of customers love Windows. We love Windows. We optimize everything for Windows. But we also know that there are customers, that made huge investments in hiring staff and, operationalizing SQL on Linux. So we're not going to leave those customers behind. So when we announced 2025, SQL 2025 last year, we brought about support for Linux as well.
Yep.
But this go around, we said, well, in SQLCon, a few of the announcements that we made was really bringing SQL 25 to some of the, other versions of Linux, Ubuntu 24, RHEL 10, added more feature parity as well, and improved performance as well. So I think really this is just, we want SQL to be installed everywhere, and this is why SQL is multi-cloud. Right? We operate on all clouds. We want SQL to be available on all types of hardware, not just selective hardware that we provide in Azure. This is why you can spin up your own VMs and with your own hardware provider, and SQL still runs amazingly well. And just along the same theme, we want SQL to be available on every operating system. And that is just what it is. SQL is everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And on VMs, a funny story for folks who have been tuning into Data Exposed for a while, maybe paying attention. We had this series of VMs called the Double Sprinkles VM. Maybe some of you in the audience are familiar. It's the EBDS v5. And recently we announced the EBDS v6, and it's even better. And I don't know if they're calling it like double sprinkles or something. But then I found out just this week, we've been talking more about something in preview, and they're calling it the Stardust. I think it's an M series, or is that the?
Yeah.
Do you know what series that is?
Exactly. Yeah.
So definitely check that out if you're using VM and you're really looking to push the limits on performance. But Priya, I'd love to get your take. Like, what are you hearing from customers, or what have you heard from customers here when it comes to migrating and modernizing? Like, what are they doing?
So, I think everybody is on the path of modernization, right? And in the core note, the SQL core note, as I mentioned, migration is just one step, right? We've 20 years of, maybe longer, 30 years, right, Bob?
Yeah.
Of a lot of debt and legacy. And in the era of AI, you really want to think about how to modernize. And that is what is the topic in everybody's head. How do I stand up my business, set up my business for the era of AI, and modernizing my operational systems is critical. And we know operational systems are built on databases. And we also know the world's #1 database is SQL. No doubt. I'm biased, so I can say it.
It's the center of the universe.
It is.
That's where everything
Over
starts.
30 years, Bob, over 30 years, every system, CRM, ERP,
name it.
inventory,
That's right.
order management, hospital systems, financial services, banking systems have all been built on SQL. So your step one of modernization is really modernizing those operational databases, which is operationalizing SQL. And this is exactly what I'm hearing from every single customer for the last 72 hours that customers want to modernize. And the question really is, hey, Priya, how can we modernize with SQL? And that is really all of the capabilities that we built and will continue to build.
Awesome, amazing. And I think that's a great segue. I actually have two directions I want to go here in cloud native. But the first I want to tie into what you're talking about in modernizing. We have so many customers that already have some sort of SQL Server estate or Azure SQL estate. And now they can take advantage, in this AI world, they can take advantage of Vector and other capabilities like that. Bob, can you comment a little bit on what we announced and how existing applications can benefit from this?
Yeah, first of all, I don't know if a lot of people caught this. we have this new certification, and we call it the SQL AI Developer Certification. And people have asked me, do I have to be like a .NET developer? Like, no, that's not the idea.
Yeah.
We want to bring every SQL professional along to have the feeling that they too can use AI technology. It's all T-SQL based.
Right.
So you want to do smarter searching with vectors, we got you. You can use T-SQL. You want to build an agentic RAG pattern, REST APIs in SQL, you can do it. So just that certification alone is proving to customers that I can get a modernized experience with a proven SQL that I've known. But we did announce vector searching with SQL 25 and public with Azure, and we always innovate. So this week we announced some enhancements to vector indexing. I love talking to the internals, but maybe not here on the TV show.
We don't have 8 hours.
Oh,
Bob.
sorry. It's hyper-focused. No, seriously, we listen to everybody like, hey, vector indexing's great, but can you make it run faster? So now I can do vector indexing 6 times faster than I could before.
6 times.
I've got a better filtering story. I can do updates now on tables. We have made it only read-only to start with. So kind of really bringing that vectorization up to a modern era that's really provable for everyone. And then one thing that people have not really seen, and that's our fault, not theirs, is MCP. So our data API builder technology, which is so amazing through a REST interface, allows you to abstract, as a developer, access to your database. Now we just stuck an MCP server on it. So anybody can build their own SQL MCP server on top of their database. You can put it on-prem in a container, Azure, wherever you want it. Those announcements alone have kind of proven, to your point, that I've got this proven SQL server forever, but are you guys really ready for the modern era? Those are examples, I think, where we are.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think another great thing is it's great for new apps, right? Obviously great for new apps. But if you have an existing app, now you can just add a vector column, start creating vettings, and start taking advantage of the new capabilities in your applications.
Exactly.
So it's great to see. Another place where I feel like we're kind of blurring some lines between on-prem or SQL Server outside of Azure and SQL in Azure is in the monitoring space. And Rajesh, can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing, what the team is doing in that space?
So on the monitoring space, I know we have tried multiple attempts, and we recently had our monitoring story with the last attempt on DB Watcher. But we heard the feedback loud and clear, and we wanted to make it even more better. So all the feedback that you have given us in terms of, hey, can you make the monitoring as seamless as possible? Can you make the monitoring end-to-end? Because I have fleet sitting in on-prem, sitting in VMs, sitting in PaaS, and even in PaaS I have in Singleton, Elastic Pools, hyperscale, non-hyperscale, all the entire fleet, because every customer has footprint in multiple areas. And we have taken that feedback very seriously. And what we have been doing is, hey, we want to make this monitoring on by default, where you get it. You don't have to do any other plumbing work, where it just shows up when you provision a resource, and then you can hook it up to your on-prem, you can hook it up to any of your Azure SQL resources, and then you get that one end-to-end single pane of glass view, drill down view, where you can go all the way down to figuring out, hey, what happened to my database when it was high query, if it was a high CPU query, or block things were happening. And then you can set off alerts. And then once you set off alerts, you just action it to the default set of, hey, emails, SMS, or any Teams integration that you want to hook up to. So we want to make sure that we give you this monitoring platform, which is fully working for you at scale across all the deployment options. So you don't have to piecemeal multiple solutions targeting different deployment options. So that's our story with monitoring. And you'll see that shape up in multiple shapes and forums, where you will see the story coming along, and we make the life much easier. And that's been the #1 ask for a very long time, where customers say, hey, can you solve monitoring for us in Azure SQL and on-prem? So we are going to take care of that.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome to see that start to come together across the different services. And I think like kind of the evolution there, and we can't have the announcements without talking about it, is Database Hub. Hopefully nobody missed that big announcement. But in case somebody did, or in case somebody's tuning in online, like I'd love to get Priya, give us the pitch on what Database Hub is, why we're doing it, and what's coming with it.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I know a lot of customers are. Almost everybody has stopped me and asked me when they can get access to Database Hub. And it's limited access right now, but we're working very hard to get it out, full public preview very soon. So let's talk about what is Database Hub for those of you that are joining us for the first time. Database Hub really is solving a core problem that we've had customers ask us for a very long time. Customers are not managing 1 or 2 databases, 1 or 2 SQL servers. That world was probably 20 years ago, right? In this world with about 1 billion applications being built and will be built by humans and agents, we are anticipating that the number of databases will also go up. So every enterprise customer I talk to is telling me about managing thousands of databases. Now that problem is a huge problem for any human to manage. even in terms of understanding the health, of the databases. It is secure, compliant. Have I updated it? If it's on-prem, have I updated it with all the prerequisite patches? But if it's in the cloud, is it hitting memory thresholds, compute thresholds? Do I need to, change something differently? Do I need a new read replica? Right? I think that world of observability is getting harder and harder because the number of databases is getting vast. But this is not just about SQL, right? Because in that estate, we know developers are starting to use databases of choice, right? You have NoSQL scenarios, and you bring in Cosmos DB. And, of course, you want open source. You love open source. Developers that love open source are bringing in Postgres. Yeah. So now the job of the database teams, the central database teams, to manage and keep the enterprise secure is getting compounded into even more thousands of databases. And that is exactly the problem Database Hub solves, giving customers full estate level, database estate level observability, and being able to take all these signals, because you're getting so many signals from hundreds of databases. How do you know which signal is just noise? I can ignore it, versus I really got to take action, because if I don't take action, I'm going to have an outage tomorrow of that mission critical application. That is exactly what Database Hub does. Takes signals and actions. But we've said actions are not just humans, because again, you're talking at scale, thousands of databases. How does a human do this? So we are bringing in database agents. And database agents are literally, think of agents as a sidecar of the engineer or the developer or the admin, right? That is looking at this estate, managing the estate, and has full, complete control, but the agent is telling the admin, what is going wrong, what can go wrong. You've got blocked queries, memory pressure, you've got security issues, compliance issues because somebody forgot to patch things, or maybe the developer is doing something that requires your intervention. That is Database Hub, folks, with observability, insights to actions, and the sidecar assistant of the database agent.
It's awesome, and I know everybody's excited to get their hands on it and try it for themselves. I think it's a great point because all of this kind of lands in Fabric to talk about some of the advancements we're having in SQL database in Fabric. And selfishly, I'm going to talk about them a little bit.
Anna, can you tell us about some of the enhancements in SQL database in Fabric?
Thank you. Yeah, so we're doing a lot in the SQL database in Fabric space. We went GA in November, and I think what's great about this list of announcements is it's driven by you. You all told us what you liked and what you think we could improve for SQL database in Fabric, and we did it. You see that with all of the parity items that you see here. We unlocked Alter Database, we added support for all collations, we even managed to get out a new Max vCore so you can start to control your spend a little bit, just like you told us. We brought you enterprise capabilities, GA of CMK, auditing, dynamic data masking. Yeah, we're just doing a lot in this space, listening to you guys. I want to thank everybody for giving us the feedback, for trying it out. We're seeing a lot of adoption, and it's been really exciting. And in the mirroring space, we're listening to you all as well, because it's not just SQL database in Fabric, right? Priya, I think we can mirror from just about anything.
Yeah, I think the entire SQL estate, you can mirror. Actually, the entire database estate, I believe, is now, you can mirror into Fabric OneLake.
Awesome. It's great. Amazing. Cool. Okay, so then the last area is tools and SDKs.
Anna, what is...
Bob is taking over host role for a few moments.
This is your area, right? So.
Yeah. So we've been innovating a lot in this space. We want to make sure, we know this is the era of AI, the era of copilots. So we want to give you the right copilots in the right places at the right time. And that's what we're really trying to do. For folks who haven't checked out the MS SQL extension and VS Code, you should just go get it. It's amazing. I'm using GitHub Copilot for everything that I do, and it's great that the MS SQL extension is just kind of integrated into that workflow, and we're bringing these experiences right beside GitHub Copilot itself, like the new schema designer with GitHub Copilot, or the data API builder that actually the MCP Bob was talking about, you can deploy and configure with the help of GitHub Copilot and a UX experience in VS Code. And then in SSMS 22, there's a lot of great things happening here. Bob, I'd love to get your take on what are some of the things happening in SSMS.
Well, first of all, my tool of choice for my career, right? And what I just love is the fact that, I mean, I don't know if it's maybe a couple years ago, folks were like, is SSMS alive? What are you doing with it? And we've just accelerated this thing. I mean, we last year had not one, but 2 major releases that we did, right? And we're just continuing to go forward. I love the Copilot story as well, though, Anna, with SSMS and Visual Studio Code and Fabric, because your team owns this, and you guys have built a consistency there. We have technology behind the scenes that is context aware of the database and the server, but we want to make sure that people are getting consistent experiences, whether it's refactoring a query or looking for performance problems. So that's really one good innovation. But SSMS has projects now built in. I know you've shown that off before as well, which is just incredibly, really important. And just all the different things that I've seen in there. I think we have Windows ARM support, and people still don't remember that we have dark mode. You still can do dark mode, right? So I think we've proven that both the extension and SSMS are not just things we're just looking at. We're just making leaps and bounds innovations with it. So the GitHub Copilot innovation for me is super important because I can use now, for example, Claude Opus in both environments. That's important to me because I want to model my choice and I want to use my GitHub Copilot account I already know and love to connect with both environments.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. And yeah, the consistency message is true across all our tools, all of our experiences, even our engine that we're working on. And I think that includes source control and projects, like you mentioned. And we're doing a lot of innovation to make that easy. We did a session this week and did a survey on how many people are using SQL projects, and we got some hands. We said, how many people wish their databases were under source control, and every single person raised their hand. So we're moving in the right direction with this and making it easier for
But one of
folks.
the ones that you showed in the core note that I think people miss is notebooks.
That's right.
You should tell us about notebooks.
That's right, absolutely, yeah. So we, in Azure Data Studio, which we retired last month, we've been working a lot in the MS SQL extension to bring everything you wanted, but we hadn't yet brought SQL notebooks, and that was the one gap we were hearing from customers, from MVPs that they really wanted. But we pulled it out of a hat and we were able to get it done. Yeah, so
people should try it. It's really good stuff.
Exciting. Yeah. But I think like switching gears a little bit, but going on the theme of consistency is the engine. So Rajesh, when it comes to, you told us a little bit about some of the performance enhancements, but when it comes to the storage engine and how it applies across the engine, but then also, like, I know we have a huge focus on making hyperscale really, really great in performance. So if you could talk about that.
Yeah, I think one which the consistent message that we might have seen in a core note or across all sessions is it's the same SQL engine that you love. It's the same SQL engine that's battle tested. It's the same SQL engine that we have been working on for 30 years, and then we are just making it better and better and better, right? And as you get into this high-end era of engine, which is currently what we are in, you will see all these improvements which we want to make the engine fully autonomous. So soon will be a day where, and as I might have seen from the announcements, the engine just runs for you. So you don't have to spend your time troubleshooting on the engine. It just runs for you. And especially with what we are thinking through in terms of Fabric Databases Hub and the agent that we want to bring on, the database agents, it will just run for you. It will auto-identify where the issues exist, and then it will mitigate for you, also put you in control. It's not like it will go in fully autopilot mode, but it will always put you in control, but it will just run for itself. What we have done on the Azure side, especially on the hyperscale side, there's a huge momentum where customers want to migrate to hyperscale because it gives them flexibility of starting small, going as big as they want. It doesn't have license, so it also gives you a lot of pricing benefits that you can move into hyperscale. And then it gives you that flexibility that you never had in other service tiers. And in those cases, what we have also heard from customers is, hey, we want the hyperscale to run on hyper and the high-end services allows options as well. And that's exactly what we did. We are giving you 160 and 192 additional click stops with a memory that it comes with. By GA time, we will enhance it. By GA time, we'll also make sure that these cores also are run on multi-AZ, which we currently are not. But then by GA time, we'll make sure that you're able to run this in multi-AZ fashion with maintenance windows and all the goodness that you expect from an enterprise service. So that's it, Anna. So we are on our path, and we want to make the engine run beautifully as a service, and then hyperscale is a service. So we are betting hard on hyperscale, and then you might have seen all the announcements coming through. We're just going to make it better and better by next SQLCon. That's our promise.
Awesome. I love it. And I think it's a great note for us to end on. So just to wrap, at SQLCon, we announced a lot of stuff. We're really excited. We're going to keep announcing a lot of stuff. There's another SQLCon coming in a few months, so you should sign up and join us in person if you're tuning in online. We'll put all this out in a blog. You should all have it. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.
What a conversation. Everything you've been watching here was captured live at FabCon and SQLCon in Atlanta, from the interviews to the demos to the community insights that make these events so special. If you're into Microsoft Fabric, SQL, and the future of data, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And speaking of next, we're taking this show to Barcelona. FabCon and SQLCon Barcelona are happening this September 2026, and it's going to be packed with big announcements, deep technical sessions, and one amazing global data community. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to register and use code FABTV to save €200 off your ticket. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome, and we'll see you in the next one.